Let's do it. All right, Tim Galbraith, hashtag Lapeer. Today I am joined by Andrea Henderson. She's the Director of Operations for the Refuge, which is the only, is it proper to say homeless shelter in Lapeer?
Yes. We
And
we
it's,
go by Restoration Center, but on paper we're a homeless shelter. So we just do
okay,
a little bit more as a restoration center, but I'm sure we'll discuss that as we continue. So,
okay.
yeah.
So I like it, Restoration Center.
Mhm.
And not just the city of Lapeer either, like the county of Lapeer,
Mhm.
correct?
Correct.
And do you know what, like, geographically, however you want to gauge it, what the next closest shelter is? Like, how far do you have to go before you hit another one? Probably Flint.
Yes, Flint. I think the next closest one is Carriagetown Ministries in Flint, and just a couple miles further would be the Hope Shelter in Pontiac.
Okay. So
So we're the
I'm
only one in
familiar
all of
with
Lapeer
both.
County.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm familiar with both. I actually was an employee of Carriagetown for like a couple days, but
Okay.
neither here nor there.
Yep.
Um, I do work in this field, as you know.
Yep.
I won't go too deep into my history with it, other than to say, for a while, I worked for United Way of Lapeer County, trying to build up sort of a street outreach program.
Hmm.
Ideally, and I had a lot of autonomy theoretically in how I built that. And ideally, it was going to be something where I was hopefully going to work fairly closely with the refuge. Like we and I, that's how we met and
Hmm. Yep, it
you
is.
know developed a rapport. And there was definitely uh, a logical connection there. Like it could have made a lot of sense for us to
Hmm.
do things together. Instead, it seems to a large degree like kind of like you guys are really the only ones that do anything about this issue in our town.
It does feel like that a lot. There's some wonderful nonprofits and organizations that come alongside of us and help in our day to day and by donating and asking what we need. And so we're really thankful to those in the community that give us those things in that way. But as far as offering, overnight shelter in any capacity, that would be our partnership with the churches and just our shelter. Hmm.
How many partnerships with churches do you have?
I think right now we have 21. We have 21
Wow.
churches that partner with us. My assistant Connie is great at being kind of the church coordinator and reaches out to churches that might not self-host or host us through the winter, and we're able to go and speak to their congregation on a Sunday or meet with the pastors or the leadership of the church and give them a little bit of a overview of what we do. And if they're interested in trying it, we put them down for a week in the winter, Tim, and this year, I think we have, between last year and this year, I think we have 3 or 4 new churches. So it's been great because the more churches we have, the longer our season of overnight shelter will last.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is that's great that you got 3 to 4 more.
I know.
I don't think you were involved with the refuge yet. When did you start? What year?
I started, goodness, I want to say April of 2022 because I
22.
think it'll be four
Yeah.
years this coming April.
So before that, when First Presbyterian of Lapeer
Hmm.
hosted it for a week,
Hmm.
I did 2 nights where I
Okay.
volunteered to sit with the guests, right? And it was actually a lot of fun. And I bring that up because every church, um, I'm sure has its screening process. I'm sure you guys have some kind of screening
Yeah,
process. The whole nature of volunteer solicitation might be delicate or tricky, but
it can be.
it is an opportunity out there for many individuals, and I would encourage them to explore it if they like feel called, if they have any interest in that, because I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
I thought the guests were great. It
Yeah,
was different, and it was I just felt good doing it. I had a good time.
that's awesome.
Yeah, just wanted to put that out there. So I'm
No,
glad
thank you. Thank you for
yeah,
that.
but I'm glad you guys had a few more churches joined. for those people who like do want to volunteer or
Mhm.
donate or get involved, how, like what's their step? What do they do?
So a few different ways we can, if they wanted to come in, we're right on the corner of Oregon and Saginaw in that big, beautiful church. They're welcome to come in, and we would love to give a tour, show you what we do here. They can uh, they can check out our Facebook page, go to our website. We have volunteers that we utilize every single day. In the winter, it's 7 days a week from 8 to 6. And so we're always looking for people to join in or be on a call list that, want to help, but maybe in a pinch. We would love it if people came alongside of us and helped our guests get to doctor's appointments or to the grocery store, to other things, delivering food to people that can't get out. We do a lot of things outside of the shelter, outside of the ones that are residents or guests, that have gone through the registration process and are actually a guest of ours for the winter. We help in so many other ways in Lapeer that we need lots of volunteers for.
So let's get into that a little bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about the differentiation between, say, a shelter and a restoration center, and like kind of what your program does look like. That like what could a guest expect if they were to be at your place?
So when someone calls or someone comes by, one of the first things that we do have to ask if they are a resident of Lapeer County. And we do know that that gets a little bit tricky. If you are quote unquote experiencing homelessness, you might not have an address. And that is just a little bit of a filtering process that we use because a lot of people are actually moving into Lapeer that unfortunately don't have a plan and they might only been here a day or two. And all of our donations as far as finances come from Lapeer County. And there's about, I would say, around 100, 150 homeless people in Lapeer, and that includes couch surfing, people living in their vehicles. But we can only take between 12 and 15 in at a time. So I
Mm.
do have to have a filtering process in some capacity. So if they fit into that residency of Lapeer for over 6 months, we do just ask them a few brief questions on the phone or in person. We do a basic standard drug test to see where they are on that. And then they would have to be willing to do a breathalyzer every night. And if they're okay with that, we do a background check. And so we just want to know where they have been and where they are in their journey. And so if that all lines up, we have them come in, we give them a locker, and we welcome them in, of course, and they are able to have a locker and a bin, and we have them here with us that day, and then they go right to the church at night in our van. If you see a big white van in our parking lot, that's what that is for. And that host church of that week will take all of our guests to that church. They have dinner there, they sleep there, we provide the mat and the bedding, they have breakfast there, and then come back to us during the day. And we function like that, Tim, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day from now, or from the beginning of November, typically every year, until April or the middle of April, depending on how many churches we have.
Okay. So you guys are, this is a world where most nonprofits, it's grants, grants, grants,
Mhm.
grants, 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 grants.
Yes.
It's what makes it go. Used to be, I was a kid, I remember, maybe you had an aunt work at Kmart and they took 250 out of her check and they donated it to United Way or something, and things got done that way.
Mhm.
Um, More donation based, and
Right.
uh, it's not the way of the world in 2025 in most cases, but the refuge, correct me if I'm wrong, is like 100% donation
It is.
based.
It's a
Okay.
100% donation based. We do get, I will be honest, we do get smaller grants. We've gotten one from our Lapeer Meyer Thank you so much. We've gotten um, a bigger donation from a church that was actually closing, and they wanted to give some of their profit to the refuge. And we get those smaller grants, for lack of a better word, but a lot of them that we have learned in the last 4 or 5 years, we do not qualify for because we are a Christian organization.
Hmm.
And so, uh, yes, all the money it takes for Connie and I to be here, for the lights to stay on, for the air conditioning in the summer to stay on, and the heat to stay on, is all donated from Lapeer, from our residents of Lapeer County.
Since you brought up the Christian organization,
Sure,
when we talk about like trying to filter, you have to do a bit of filtering because you can only have 12 to 15 guests,
that's
right?
right.
But can
Mhm.
your guest be a non-Christian? Is
Yes.
Christian, so
Yes,
they
they
don't
can be
have
a,
to, it
they do
has
not have
nothing
to
to
be
do
a
with it.
Christian. Right,
Okay, it's
right.
just it's your organization's
Yes,
beliefs. It's not,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Just wanted to
And
make sure.
no, that's okay. And I'll add a little bit more to that.
Sure.
It was founded by a few different leaders in our community over 20 years ago, and they were Christians, and they wanted it to be a nonprofit Christian homeless shelter. And so we will talk about Jesus here. We are not going to shove it down your throat, but it is in conversation, and some more than others if they're comfortable with that, Tim. We do have chapel at 3 o'clock on Sundays that our guests can go to, that a pastor or a community leader will lead here at the refuge. And but we just, there's a level of peace that comes with that. There's a lot of people that will ask us for prayer when they're here, even if they don't stay here, and they're going through a really tough time. And so we just want to be able to have that presence, and have that level of respect and kindness that sometimes comes with Christianity. So yes, that's how we operate.
Um, I, I feel like, anyone watching would have, if they didn't know about the refuge at this point, a better idea of what it is, what it does. You know, I think to kind of work toward closing this out, what I'm curious about is maybe like the challenges that you guys
Okay.
are facing and sort
Sure.
of like the future where you're trying to get to. Um, what are we dealing with there?
So one of our goals that we would love in Lapeer is a couple different things. One of them would be a warming center. So ours is not a low barrier center that you come in. Um, like I mentioned earlier, you have to be able to be willing to do a breathalyzer and be sober. We have an initial drug test, and those that are staying with us that are committed to the program, um, are unable to use marijuana as well. And that is partly because it's still a level 1 narcotic federally. And so that is our stance on that. And so what we would love to see is a warming center for people that might not be able to make all of those steps yet. What I see here sometimes is the person really just needs a week or two of food and sleep. And I think that sometimes when we meet those basic needs, food, water, shelter, that if they can get those and know that they can depend on those three things and don't have to search for them every single day, that in a few weeks they might be able to foundationally be able to move into the restoration part, the restoring part
Mm,
of what we do here, and work on the next thing. When you come in and you're hungry and you haven't slept and you don't have any water, and then all of a sudden we ask you to do all of these other things, sometimes that's too much.
yeah.
And that's not a disrespect to where I work. I love what we do, but I think that the number of people that are at poverty level that are coming to Lapeer experiencing homelessness, or something tragic happens and someone ends up homeless who's lived in Lapeer their whole life and never thought they would come in our doors, are coming in our doors. And I think that it would just be great to have that first, and have that there for those that maybe aren't ready for all the other things. So that's one thing that I think that Lapeer could benefit from immensely. The other thing I would love to see is more places for people to go who are struggling with mental health, who are struggling with addiction, rehab centers. Community mental health is amazing. We work very closely with them, but there are several people that are in such need in Lapeer that maybe struggle with being on their medications, who maybe are not stable enough to be here in our building, be a registered guest because of the needs that they have. And we want to care for them as much as we do everyone else, but we're also, one of my biggest jobs as the director is to make sure that everything goes smoothly and everything goes balanced, Tim. And when we send people to a church that night, some volunteers who the church volunteers are amazing, but might not have the experience needed for those that have those challenges. And so we're constantly, unfortunately, having to say no to some people based on just that their needs are more than the refuge can give them. And
Yeah.
so I would love to see just more things in Lapeer, more organizations in Lapeer that focus on the mental health factors that come into a community, as well as addictions and substance abuse and things like that.
Yeah, well, we're seeing an increase in all of these things.
Across the state, across the
Homeless
nation. Yes,
across the
yes,
nation, homelessness,
yes,
mental illness, substance use disorder.
yes.
Um, some recent laws that were passed have fundamentally changed
Mhm.
the nature of these types of services.
Yep.
I won't get too deep into things
No, it's
like
okay.
housing first
It's
versus
easy for both of us to do since we see it every
yeah,
day in our
housing
jobs.
first and
So,
housing readiness and all these issues. But I would encourage anyone who watches this to maybe go learn a little bit more about those because they're pivotal to how these issues are dealt with. The warming shelter that you speak of, um, it sounds like you have great partners as far as
do.
these churches that help you provide shelter throughout the colder months. But
Hmm.
it sounds like you need some more partners
We
for
do.
some of these other problems. And
Yep.
I think maybe that seems like the battle right now is where to locate these
Hmm.
partners. Who's going to help get a
Hmm.
warming shelter in Lapeer? Who are
Yeah.
those people or entities or organizations going to be that help fill that gap? So I
Hmm.
guess time's just going to tell on that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we're ready for it. We're ready for it. We have great volunteers here that are willing to maybe do more. We have, lots of conversations at our board meetings about what we could do to continue to help the community and not just 12 or 15. We help, I think I usually try to keep track of those that we give um, toiletries to and food to and help them with laundry or a shower or maybe a utility bill, and it's over a couple thousand every year. And
Yeah.
so thankfully to those in Lapeer that are able to give, we're able to help so many. And that's just a huge blessing to be able to do, especially when things are getting more and more expensive.
Yeah. Indeed, they are. I'll put some contact info like somewhere.
Okay,
Look, if
thank you.
you're watching a video, look in this Substack or what have
Mhm.
you. Look around on the screen somewhere. There will be phone numbers and addresses and emails and things like that. Before I let you go, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks
Anything
for having
that
me.
maybe we didn't touch on that you'd like to put out there, or you feel like we kind of got it all?
I think one more thing that would probably be great, and I know that this is a bigger conversation, but if there's any landlords watching or any developers watching, one of the things I think that probably those in leadership in Lapeer talk about a lot is affordable housing.
Mm,
That's that is a very, very hard thing to come by, not just in Lapeer, not just in Michigan.
no.
We're well aware of that, but it is tricky for those that are on their feet and
Yeah.
do bring in an income, but unfortunately can't afford the rent of an apartment
Yeah.
in Lapeer County. And
Yeah.
so that part is discouraging for them when they're doing all the right things and it is still not reachable, right?
Yeah.
So that is another whole avenue, Tim, that you and I could probably make
Yeah.
another 45-minute video on that we
Absolutely.
won't need to do right now, but that is something that I think that is very much in a lot of our conversations here at the refuge. And you and I have talked about it at length, and I think that that's something that I'm hoping that the leaders in Lapeer, not just the city, but in our county, are hoping to address in the near future because it is very needed.
I hope so too. I think it comes across as low income housing as some sort of like scourge on the community, and it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
We have a whole lot of what people in the human services field know as NIMBYs, which are
Yeah,
not in my backyards.
right.
I get it. Nobody wants their property value lowered, and nobody wants to feel unsafe. There are people
Of course.
who love Lapeer and they want it to stay wonderful and beautiful. I think the thing we're trying to do is get people to understand that we can add a little bit of low income housing,
Mhm.
and that will contribute to making Lapeer wonderful and beautiful if done
Mhm.
properly, and we work together toward that end.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate
Yeah,
it very
welcome.
much.
Thanks for having me.
Always fun to talk to you.
You too.
I'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
take care.
Yeah, you too.